Shalom and welcome to another episode in our series called Faith Journeys with God in the Land. Today includes an adventurous hike down Israel's highest mountain. It's called Mount Hermon. Wow, I'm glad you joined me for what is an adventurous hike down Israel's highest mountain. We're here in the northern part of Israel, literally on the borders with Syria and Lebanon, on Mount Hermon. You can see behind me the highest peak. In fact, we just took the gondola up from the ski resort down below us to the top of this mountain. Israel actually has the second highest peak of Mount Hermon. It's about 7,300 feet above sea level. Syria, incidentally, has the highest of the peaks, and that's about 9,200 feet. But what we're doing is walking down this wonderful path. It's a rather rocky trail, and I'm going to have to watch my step as I share with you a few words about unity. And I'm using this theme of unity because Mount Hermon is mentioned a few places in the book of Psalms and in the Song of Solomon, chapter 4, romantic language there. I would suggest reading it. But chapter 133 of the book of Psalms talks about unity. Talks about the dew falling on Mount Hermon as if it's falling on Mount Zion. Now, Mount Zion is, of course, in Jerusalem, but this is Mount Hermon. This is the highest peak. It's absolutely stunning up here. We're now about 6,600 feet above sea level because we're descending down to the ski resort and the lodge there. But what a beautiful place. In fact, there behind me, if it was a clear day, you could see the Sea of Galilee, the lake called Kinneret. It's about 35 miles away. It's not that clear today, a little haze in the summer sky, which is typical. But what a great hike this is, because as we took the gondola up, I think part of the experience is to walk down this pathway. But when we talk about unity, we talk about unity in the church, the unity of our nation. I think we are quite divided politically, if you will. And don't worry, this is not a political talk in any regard. But when we talk about the unity of God's people, the psalmist said it clearly, how beautiful is the unity of God's people. And he uses the illustration of Mount Hermon. Israel gets about 300 days of dew every year. And that's quite a lot, isn't it? Almost, what would you say, over 2/3 or 3/4 of each day of the year is one where dew falls, and especially up here in the north. Now I'm hanging out here by this cliff, and I'm going to have you look down below me. That's our ultimate destination. But where we were just at beginning our hike is right there. So when we talk about unity, we're talking about having God's goodness and grace fall upon God's people so that we're unified in purpose. And sometimes that's difficult to maintain unity. We have different views, theological views, for instance, or relational differences. And yet, when we talk about the importance of unity. I think unity within a church family, for instance, is one that's so important, because when we talk about being the light of the world, radiating Christ's grace and goodness to others, I think people outside the church, and I'm being careful here with my steps, but people outside the church, people who are not yet believers, when they see a disunified congregation, that can really be detrimental for attracting them to Christ and the importance of the kingdom. And yet when we are unified, when we display love and grace and compassion towards each other, that's a beautiful thing to witness. And when we exhibit that in our daily lifestyle, in our relationships with others, that goes a long way for communicating to those still outside the church the importance of being unified by our relationship with Christ and how we treat each other. I don't think we would be too attractive as a church family if we mistreat one another all the time. There's nothing genuine about our faith when we do that. And yet when we exhibit the unity of spirit, purpose, it really goes a long way to demonstrate the genuineness of our faith. There are some hikers there in front of me. My group has gone on ahead, and I'm bringing up the trail here with making this video. But you know, in a group like this, it's so wonderful. We're all from different backgrounds, church backgrounds, theological backgrounds, and yet our love for Christ, our love for His Word, a love for His kingdom is what unifies us. And as we experience in every trip that I lead, every group that I lead, there's a beauty of this unity, even though we're from different walks of faith and different, can I say, theological viewpoints. Sometimes we make the secondary primary, don't we, when we are dogmatic about things that are really not important about our faith walk. They are important in its own way, don't get me wrong, but what should unify us and what should be displayed to others is our love for Christ and His Word and our care and concern for one another. We allow our differences not to divide us. So when we talk about unity, that's indeed the beauty of the kingdom and what we're invited to do and invited to display. So I found a nice rock here to end this talk with you as you look down to where we're heading eventually. It's a beautiful view, beautiful day here on the Hermon, and may you be encouraged by striving for unity in your church congregation, in your family. Display the love and goodness and compassion of Christ to others. We agree to disagree on those secondary issues of faith, but we stand firm, of course, on our love for Christ, and we're unified by that because, after all, we're all called to be disciples of Him. So be encouraged this day and from Mount Hermon, and until next time, shalom.